at 5150. And, you know, Kari, who was Sam's second wife, who was his girlfriend at the time, they went off to Hawaii, and the Van Halen brothers started freaking out, getting down on me big time because I wasn't around to rehearse the new studio sessions with them. I left my wife, and now I didn't want to go to rehearsal, and I was like, fuck that, and all this stuff. And now what they had done was, the Van Halen brothers, they re-recorded almost the entire live album because Eddie, this is all from Sam, they re-recorded almost the entire live album because Eddie was out of tune or Al had sped up or slowed down. They were fixing things. They fixed everything. Only now that Eddie was playing in tune, my singing was off key, and where Al sped up in Runaround, now I'm singing ahead of the beat. So now I had to go back in the studio and redo all my vocals, and I wanted to kill those guys. He said they put him in a room with a video of the concert, and he sang it through one time in the course of 3 hours. Said he had dinner reservations, and he left. And Ed Loeffler, who was not well at the time, he also had worked out a deal on the side for Sammy about a greatest hits package. Now, he was getting divorced to Betsy, and, Betsy was going to get a nice half, you know what I'm saying? So, Ed Loeffler, looking out for his man, got him a deal with Geffen to do a greatest hits album with 2 new songs to kind of cover the whole divorce. So Sammy wouldn't feel the crunch financially.
Right,
yeah,
right. Good move by Ed Loeffler.
Yeah, man. That's a manager, man. That's a fucking guy looking out for you. That was really something.
Right.
Dave, what did you make of this whole right here, right now thing? I mean, this was, what a debacle, right? But I mean, apparently a lot of live albums are fucked about like this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's nothing new.
No,
I mean,
know.
Going back to the, Kiss's Alive album.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, studio sweetening is nothing new.
No.
So that really shouldn't surprise anybody.
I know.
I think it surprised people that actually read it in print.
Mm-hmm.
I think it surprised that, Sam actually put it out there.
Keep in mind that no one knew that at the time, that was a reveal.
No, I hear you. But, yeah. I mean, the way Sam... I mean, it wasn't like they recorded a show and it was like, oh, you know what? I had a riff here and my guitar came out of tune. So I'm just going to go over that and fix that up. Or Sam was like, oh, I was totally off key on that one. They fix things here and there so it sounds the best. Okay, it's not completely live, but the approach is live. I mean, the way Sam makes it sound is they completely recorded everything all over again in the studio.
Yeah.
And I think that was what was upsetting to most people at the time.
Yeah.
Is that it wasn't really a live album.
Yeah, it's true. He says, Ed and Al didn't want me to do the album. They said it would be bad for the band, talking about the greatest hits, right? They said they didn't want me to do anything they couldn't control. It wasn't long before they started seeing an attorney about possibly suing me or throwing me out of the band. Dave, this is during the live album. So look again, the lineage. He doesn't want to do a Van Halen song. Then he doesn't want to really tour all that much. Then he wants to take breaks in between albums. And they're fighting with him to come record at the studio. Then he's throwing tantrums about who they have as a producer, and he wants another producer, and he's fighting with them about, doing the Right Now video. Like, there's all kinds of tensions building up. He's mad about the live album. He's all this kinds of stuff. Right Here, Right Now tour, the summer of 1993, the Van Halen brothers were working with that attitude on me that I wasn't doing enough. They wanted me to do 5 shows a week, and things weren't friendly. He says, I started flying on my own. I started staying in different hotels. And by the end of the tour, Eddie and I weren't getting along. Now, this is not the Balance Tour, guys. This is the Right Here, Right Now summer tour of 1993. So this goes to show you that tension was there from the beginning. Ed Loeffler got sick mid-tour, and he had throat cancer. Backstage, Sam and Ed started to mix it up a little bit, and Ed Loeffler broke it up. They had a good end of the tour, he said, but ended up with Loeffler in the hospital. And Loeffler dies while Sammy is partying in Cabo. The band calls him to come back, and he doesn't do it. That was crushing to hear. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because he was the closest to Ed Loeffler.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. After the guy broke his ass to take care of Sammy in every which way. He got him out of Geffen, got him into Van Halen the way he wanted, got him on Warner Brothers. They did the albums with Van Halen, everything flowed. Got him the solo deal, all the kinds of shit. It's unbelievable. and this guy can't even get on a flight. What a bastard. So,
well, I think he had shows at the time.
Yeah,
right?
I know. But
I hear you.
So now here we go. Here we're going into the tension. They're shopping for managers. This is 1994, and they're shopping for 2 months. Sammy Hagar wanted Shep Gordon, who was Alice Cooper's manager, and Johnny Barbas, but Van Halen didn't like him. He wanted to go with Al's brother-in-law, Ray Daniels, who managed Rush. And there's a quote from Sam: Alex Van Halen never wrote a song in his life, and he was taking the same amount of publishing as me. Ray Daniels gained the confidence of the brothers that he was going to be on their side and not mine. Ed and Al were really going against me. They thought Loeffler and I fucked them. We didn't fuck those guys. We saved them. We made 10 times more money in 1 year than they had ever made in any year before. We came into the band. Remember when he said, we came into the band? Because that's what it was. It was Ed, Loeffler, and Sam coming in there, swooping in. Now, the band was signed with Ray, but Sam didn't. The deal was made that they paid management, and I didn't pay management. He didn't do shit for me. He wasn't my manager. I would find my own manager. I didn't like the guy. I wanted to bite his face off. Woo, Dave, what do you make of them fighting words?
See, Sammy likes to be in control.
Oh, yeah, he's an alpha.
So he came in with Ed Loeffler, had his manager running the band.
Right.
So now, unfortunately, Ed Loeffler passes away.
Right.
It's also around this time that Eddie wants to regain control of the band.
Right.
Of his band, because he sees it as his band. And I don't think he's wrong.
Right.
So they are looking for their manager being Ed and Al. And it's not just a band manager now that everybody agrees on. It's Ed and Al's. So the direction of band management has completely gone 180 degrees. And that's really what bothers Sam. I think if they had hired a manager that everybody had agreed on,
right,
and that was looking after everyone's interest, Sam would have been like, I don't have Ed Loeffler anymore, but okay, fine. But now he's getting, I was going to say now he's getting a taste of his own medicine. But I'm retracting that,
right,
because Ed Loeffler wasn't always looking out for Sam. He was looking out for the band.
No, he would look out for the band too, yeah.
He looked out for the band, and he knew what to tell the band. He knew what not to tell the band. They certainly didn't know all the details of what he was doing, but he was doing right by the band.
Well, I tell you what he was doing, though, and listen to this. This was really eye-opening. This is from Sam. When I joined Van Halen, Ed Loeffler had put in the contract that after every Van Halen album, I had the right to do a Sammy Hagar solo record for big money. I only did one. Ed Loeffler called it my golden parachute, and somehow they took it out of the contract because Ray had renewed the Warner Brothers contract, renegotiated with them, and they took that out. What do you make of that?
I find it hard to believe that he didn't know about that, or that was something that he didn't have to sign off on, because it was related to him. Like, how could Ed and Al sign off on that on his behalf?
I don't understand how that's possible.
How can that be? How can that be?
Unbelievable. You know what I personally think? I think Sammy signed off on it. I think they removed it from there, and Sam was like, this is going to end very soon anyway. I don't even give a fuck. I think Sam knew that after that album.
Right.
He knew
I don't think he had a choice. It was like, look, this is the new contract. This is the term. Take it or leave it.
Right. And then he said that he saw Ray Daniels backstage at the Toronto show with Ed and Al signing papers, and he didn't want even Sam to be involved, or he said, don't worry about it. Ed and Al are all the ones that matter in this band. That's what fucking Ray said to Sam, which is enough to fluff his feathers, that's for sure, right? I mean,
right. But remember, Sam had said that Ray Daniels wasn't managing him.
Right.
So you can't complain about...
Exactly.
Ray Daniels doing stuff for the band that negatively affects you. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it...
here we go.
Right. Well, maybe the band did take that out of... Maybe they did take Sam's golden parachute out of that clause because they could because Sam wasn't being managed by them.
Well, the question is
by
that who
Ray
the fuck
Daniels
was managing Sam, and maybe that person should have been the one protecting him.
Right. I don't even know who that. But here's the funny part: like Sam never mentions who that is.
No, he doesn't. I don't think he was managed by anybody. I think he was flying solo.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think he was trying to save some money on paying a manager. I think it's what. So now things are crazy at Cabo Wabo. So now we didn't get into the whole Cabo Wabo thing, but if you remember, the band invested in Cabo Wabo. The Cabo Wabo manager, George or Jorge, whatever they call him, didn't pay any bills for a year, and he spent all the money, and the cantina owed like $300,000, and the place was trash, and Sam went to buy the other guys out of their shares. And Ray cooked up a plan with our accountant where they could get their money back by taking a loss. They wrote it off their taxes. They gave it back to me after I agreed that if I ever built another one, they would have the first right of refusal to invest. So Sammy is then partners with Marco Monroy. Jorge comes back, or George, whatever his name is. They clean the place up, and Cabo Wabo comes alive and starts to thrive. And this incenses the brothers because they feel like they've been had. However, they wanted their money back, and that's what Ray got them. So now the tour manager, Scotty Ross, he comes into a Van Halen rehearsal logo, slaps Sam on the back and says, Cabo was packed, dude. You're making tons of money. The place looks great. And the brothers were pissed off, and they stopped Mike from going to Cabo anymore, and they really thought that they got fucked. And this was really, really a thorn in the side of Van Halen and the Sam relationship. So this was brutal. This was almost like the nail in the coffin, if you think about it. So what did you make of this, Dave?
Oh, yeah, because you look at it from everybody else's view, who's not Sam, who's invested in this thing. The thing is tanking. It's bleeding money. Sam says, then you guys can invest out. Just hold on for a little while longer. The brothers, and I guess Mike, I don't know, but the brothers at the least get their money back. But what does it look like from their perspective? The second Sam buys out their shares, then it starts turning around, and then it starts making money. So, of course, they're sitting there suspicious. Oh, well, while we were all co-owners, the place is tanking.
Right.
When we're not co-owners anymore, and you're the only guy, oh, now it's making money.
Right.
What's that all about?
It's shady.
Now, the truth, it looks shady. Now, I think the fact of the Now, I think the fact of the matter is that Sam was learning as he went along. He made a few mistakes in the beginning, and then after a certain amount of time, figured out what he was doing, and he got it working. But the brothers weren't willing to wait around to see that happen. And quite frankly, who can blame them? Because they were being asked to put more and more money into it all the time to keep the thing afloat. And at some point, you're like, no, enough's enough. I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
So I could see from their perspective why they thought they were getting ripped off.
Yeah.
When in fact, there was no conscientious decision by Sam to say, oh, all right, the brothers are out. Now we can start doing things legit so I can make all the money. That's not what happened. Sam just finally got his act together, figured out what to do, got the right people to do the right things, and that's when it started working.
Right.
But it's not like the brothers lost $1. They got the money back that they had put in. But I could see why it looks the way it does and why it would be PO.
That's true. And also, so now the funny thing is we're making the Balance album. It's like Sam talks about it like he knew it was over, even while making the album. He says, we were making the Balance record, but it was over for Van Halen. If it wasn't for the producer, Bruce Fairbairn, we would have never finished that record. He says that Sam claims that Ed was claiming to be sober, but he was still fucked up. Al was covering for him, saying, oh, that's just the way Ed is. And Sam was chasing Ed out when he was singing and said that Ed was on painkillers for his hip. Ed started making suggestions of how Sam should sing. And Sam said, that got out of hand so quickly that Fairbairn took me to Vancouver to finish my vocals by myself. He says, I knew they were trying to get rid of me. Eddie was trying to make me quit. He would find something wrong with every lyric I'd write. He never said a word about my lyrics before, and suddenly he didn't like anything. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that was also around the time that Ed was trying to be sober.
Yeah.
But that was like a window of opportunity
Right.
of sober.